and I'm really thrilled to welcome to the stage Haider Rafique, the Global CMO of OKX, and Samantha Barry, Global Editorial Director of Glamour magazine. Haider.
Good morning. We've got the morning coffee caffeinated crew, I think, right? Thank you so much for this conversation. I think there's a lot that I'm going to try to unpick in 30 minutes with crypto, with your role at Tribeca, and what it means for maybe people in the room. But I just want to start with, this is probably a room full of storytellers. What is the current narrative around crypto?
Well, thanks for having me here. And the first thing I want to say is I am okay. We are all okay. I know people are looking at the markets right now, and I keep getting these calls. And my mom even called me and said, "Hey, are you doing okay? Are you going to keep your job?" And yes, I'm going to keep my job. We're fine. We're going to pay our bills.
But it gets to the point that there is I think, a little bit of a speculative narrative around crypto, one that you're trying to combat. How do you go about that?
So there is, if you look at markets where we're not going through hyperinflation, a lot of the people will look at crypto as an investment asset or a short-term trade. And I think there's so much happening, there's so much impact from crypto around the world that's solving real-world problems. If you consider half the world is living in some level of authoritarianism. And I think crypto has the power to change that. It truly does.
And you talked about the markets. The markets are bracing themselves today for the largest interest rate hike in 30 plus years here in the US. I've heard the word recession more than I would like this week. What does that mean for the world of crypto? What do you think how is that a potential global recession? What impact will that have in the world of crypto?
Recession and inflation, I believe, are the best marketing tactics or strategy for crypto, because it ultimately solves those things, at least when you look at Bitcoin as an asset.
So I think it's important to kind of dig into the fact that you want to change that speculative narrative. Do you think that is about who's investing in crypto, who is using crypto? Have you seen that change in recent months or years?
So 60%, Sammy, 60% of Bitcoin in the last 1 year has not moved at all. So people are starting to realize the value of Bitcoin or crypto assets as a hedge to inflation and to recession. So I think that's a very interesting behavior to see that now, since if you look back in 2017, there were a lot of institutions that came in. And if you see the effects on the market, they're almost very identical to traditional financial markets. My belief is that that's going to switch. Ultimately, retail investors will take control. They'll realize that Bitcoin and crypto markets are a great hedge to recession and inflation. And when that really happens at a broader scale, there's about 6.67 billion people in this world. When they all realize it, I think retail investors will take back control, and you'll see a very different output in the market.
So when you say it's a great hedge, going into an increase in inflation and interest rates hiking, would you be encouraging people to look at the long-term benefits of crypto?
Absolutely. Long-term thinking is very important, whether you look at traditional financial markets, you look at any open markets. I think long-term investment thinking is one of those principles that we all need to embrace. So yes, I think crypto, especially with the way Bitcoin is programmed, I think is a great hedge to recession and inflation.
If you had a crystal ball and you wanted to look ahead 10 years in the future at how financial institutions and investing and finances is set up globally, how do you imagine the old world of finance working together with the new world of crypto, and whether they have dependencies on each other?
So Sammy, I don't see a world where it's one or the other. My romantic idea for the world is that there's half and half. So you have traditional financial system. There's a lot of goodness in that system. It's usable. It helps us today do things. And I think what may occur is that 50% of the future financial system may be powered by crypto rails, which is really pushing the boundaries on innovation and evolving our financial systems. I hope that the two worlds will work really well together and complement each other and create the ultimate utility for everyone in the room here.
And back quickly to the narrative around crypto. Where do you think that started, that speculative narrative? Is it because of the stories that were out in the world about crypto, or how do you think people are combating it? Even you guys working as a presenting sponsor of Tribeca, like what is the combat against the narrative of speculative crypto look like?
So the early days of crypto, was started by a bunch of young engineers, male engineers. And as a result of that, you see this echo chamber on Twitter, which is a bunch of dudes and crypto bros talking to each other. I think that needs to change, and we as a company, as a firm, are trying to do that the best we can, whether it's diversity hiring, whether it's funding female developers who we can encourage to come and build on the systems. But I think ultimately what really matters is us really focusing on education. And that education ultimately drives the change in narrative. So people don't see crypto as a very speculative asset class that, a get-rich-quick scheme, if you will, that will help you buy Lambos. That's the bad side of the crypto narrative. I think what needs to happen is people need to understand that crypto is really solving real-world problems. So I'll give you guys an example. There's a female Afghani entrepreneur. For years now, she's been actually paying her female employees in Bitcoin. And that's really interesting because females in Afghanistan to this day today are unable to open a bank account because of lack of documentation or what have you. So this is a case where there's a real world problem around accessibility that crypto is very seamlessly solving for them. And that's the same thing, if you look at Venezuela, hyperinflation, quadruple digit inflation, for people living in Venezuela, they don't really care about the Bitcoin price going from 60,000 to 20,000. They are looking at this and saying, hey, my Tylenol, the cost for my goods and services is tripling every day or every week. What's a 30-40% dip in the crypto market, so to speak? It's still a better hedge for them.
Amazing examples. Crypto uses the language of decentralization, but as you touched on, it is pretty centralized and it's pretty white and it's pretty male. In this current job, in previous jobs, you've seen how much of crypto investing is done by men. How are you getting more women into the world of crypto?
I grew up, my mother having a really prominent role in the family as the CFO of the house. And she made all financial decisions. My dad had the role of going and working, and the funds were handed off to my mom, and she really was the program lead, so to speak, and which is why I'm here today. It's credit to my mother. When I look at my partner, my wife, she's playing the same role. If you leave it to me, I'll probably end up buying all classic cars. Not the best financial decision. But my wife has a much more thoughtful, long-term way of thinking about finances. So when I think of those trends, it's a bit personal to me to bring more females and attract more females into the industry. And I think it needs to happen from a number of different angles. Number one, there's such amazing female talent. If you look at OKX, part of the reason why we are successful, I am successful, I'm here is because of the team behind me. They're all here, and they're incredible female leaders. So it starts with hiring. Second thing, we want to fund female developers. We want to encourage more females to get into the tech industry, become developers, and embrace programming on top of Bitcoin and other crypto assets. And I think the third thing is creating a brand, an environment that welcomes everyone. So if you look at a brand that doesn't feel inclusive, isn't welcoming, you're less likely to interact with it. If the community of that brand is only speaking to men or a certain class, then you're also going to feel disfranchised. What we try to do is create a brand that doesn't really look like a financial platform. It actually looks like a platform that could be a community. It could be a social network. And the idea, the premise behind it is that we are able to welcome all of you guys, and it doesn't feel like it's one that's just designed for men.
And, you know, I'm going to say as the editor-in-chief of Glamour that when women do invest, their financial returns are much better than men across the board. We invest less, we save less, we earn less, but when we do those things, we actually have better returns. So it's a good idea to get women into the mix.
+1.
You've got a group of storytellers here and CMOs and marketers, and I think I want to dig into the fact that as you know, this crypto industry, you have made very conscious decisions to be a presenting sponsor at Tribeca, to sponsor Man City. Don't know if there's any Man City fans, and then hopefully there's more for this Formula One. Why those industries? Why was it important to put the crypto world next to, you know, film and storytelling, sports?
So the intention is to try and be mainstream. I tell most of our partners and our creative partners especially, we're the biggest thing that no one knows about. We're the second largest crypto trading exchange by volume, but as a brand, most people don't actually know us. So the first intention was, let's go partner with these world-class properties, and where there's a really highly engaged audience, and help them supercharge their audience or fan experience. But when you start talking to these properties, I think the fundamental that we really apply when we decide on one partner over another is character. Are the principles aligned between the two parties? And when we talk about diversity, I think that plays a really huge role. Are we aligned on those things? Because when you're in a 5-year marriage with a partner, a lot of things happen during that time. At times you may encounter some controversy or some tricky, you know, press or what have you, and you just want the other side to be very aligned principally to you. So I think the reason for Man City, for McLaren, Formula One, for Tribeca, mainly for me at least, is about character. I think the character of the people who are running these properties.
And you've been to a lot of stuff at Tribeca this week. We talked very briefly at lunch yesterday about the fact how storytelling is currently financed, which is pretty old school still in terms of getting a film or a TV series off the ground. If anybody else is watching The Offer, it feels like it hasn't changed that much since the days of making The Godfather. But you have a different dream of how storytelling and films and future, you know, headliners at Tribeca will be financed. Can you share with the room?
So I hope that we can, you know, over the years, partnership with Tribeca, encourage creators to come explore the crypto rails. There's a lot of great utility built within crypto that helps distribute incentives very transparently and equally and making it a level playing field. There was a time when I was a film student, and I remember it was just so hard to understand the economics of film. And I believe that the public ledger, a blockchain, allows people, creators here in the room, to not only distribute incentives very fairly across everyone, but also make it transparent so young filmmakers are able to actually learn from that experience and see how it actually works. So I think there's a lot of goodness around how you use blockchains to be more transparent and be more fair.
Do you see other capabilities that creators can use from the crypto world?
Yeah, I think the metaverse is going to be a really interesting surface, so to speak. The big question that most of you might be asking yourself is, what's the difference between virtual reality versus metaverse? I think the configuration, the programmability with metaverse gives you more autonomy as a creator, what you can do in terms of programming the incentives, like I said earlier. So my hope is that next year, going into the festival, we see or are able to encourage some creators to take that leap of faith and come create stories in the metaverse. If you just think about TikTok, the early creators on TikTok, they benefited so much. They had amazing velocity by just being early and just being bold and being there. So I hope that we get to see that in the metaverse, regardless of what metaverse and whose metaverse it is. We are here to encourage people to come in and give it a try.
Are you seeing any brands do amazing jobs in terms of Web3 or crypto capabilities?
Not yet. I hope that we'll see that over the next 1 year. Web3 as a concept, culturally speaking, is still quite new and nascent. People are just starting to pique their interest in it. So, and I think companies are scratching their heads around it, how to best build utility within Web3. Ultimately, Web3, in my view, is giving control back to people when they're on the internet, when they're digital. So I hope that over the next 12 months, we'll see consumer brands step up and try this new surface, work with us, work with other partners in crypto or hardware providers, and really create some amazing immersive experience we can all celebrate next year.
And I think there is definitely something about the world of creatives that they're probably willing to experiment a little bit more than maybe some industries.
I think so. I think so. And look, I personally believe that we're going to encourage people who come in and take that leap of faith. We'll fund them, we'll finance them. If anyone here is interested in doing that, please reach out. We're here to help. For us, the partnership with Tribeca is not putting a logo on the property. It's more about how do we immerse ourselves among storytellers and really supercharge the next wave of the stories we're going to get to watch and see next year and for the years to come.
Did it surprise you in all, you have immersed yourself this week with lots of different storytellers. Did it surprise you that more haven't been experimenting with this world of Web3 and crypto?
A little bit. I was hoping that we would probably see more of that. But it's also a great opportunity. When I don't see it, it gets me just excited that we can work with Jane, Bob, and the rest of the Tribeca team in bringing that stuff to life, put some funding behind it, provide the tools and services and education that creators need to get more comfortable with this stuff, because it is new. It is, challenging and scary for a lot of people.
And back to the world of crypto in general, you guys have a new motto, which is trade responsibly and invest responsibly. What does that mean, and why was it important to put the word responsibly in twice?
I think, Sammy, when you're in the business of providing access to financial markets, it's really important to teach people how to be responsible. It's really easy to lose your shirt in markets, whether it's traditional markets, equities, bonds, or crypto. And everyone in the industry, financial industry, can do a better job. And for us, having that intention very clearly in our brand, I think will set the right foundation for us to go, not just live up to that promise, help people understand that you have to keep your emotions out, you have to think long term, you have to think about dollar cost averaging, you have to have good principles around why you trade and why you invest. And I think once we do that, I hope that there's going to be a wave of companies that will follow suit and really create a generation of people here and otherwise who are going to be responsible crypto investors and responsible crypto traders, and not ones who are just looking to get rich quick and buy a Lambo, because I think you'll find yourself getting burned out very quickly.
What do you think it's going to take the mainstream perception of crypto to evolve?
I hope, Sammy, that it is celebrating the beautiful use cases that are solving real-world problems. I hope we get away from the speculative memes and things going to the moon. I hope we start focusing as a culture, as a community, on the things that are really changing for the good based on this new industry being formed. I think that's part number one. Number two is we as OKX, among other partners, along with Tribeca, City Football Group, McLaren Formula One team, we are here, we're in it together to drive up education. What you can expect from us over the next 12 months is we're going to bet big on education. And that education is not just for ways for people to learn how to trade crypto and invest in crypto, but more importantly, learn the role of money, learn how money supply works, learn the basics of economics, and then learn responsible trading and investing. And we're taking that on ourselves to really do it with full force.
What part does regulation or self-regulation come into that?
I don't know. I think regulators ought to be happy when we do that. It shows our character. If you look at my previous firm, OKCoin, we were the only exchange to have delisted certain assets we felt were just not right for or gaming certain people, so to speak. So this has been part of our DNA. For us, it's not always about revenue. It's about creating healthy behaviors I think that's the long-lasting brand element we're trying to capture.
Explain what delisting those assets meant, because I think this is a really interesting kind of thread to pull.
It's funny, everyone finds that very interesting. So Bitcoin is an open source network. We realized a few years ago that there were a few forks to Bitcoin, and that's okay. Their objective was to perhaps try and make Bitcoin more effective and more efficient of a network. What those forks got wrong in our view was that they copied the branding of Bitcoin. So if you're a new retail investor and you jump on any of the platforms, you'll see 3 different types of Bitcoin because the logos are almost identical. It's the big B that we're all familiar with. What happens is that when you're new to crypto markets, you'll look at those 3 assets and you'll say, well, why shouldn't I just buy the cheapest one? Why would I buy the one that's trading at $50,000? Most people don't actually realize that you can buy denominations of crypto. You don't have to buy the whole Bitcoin. You can buy $5 worth of Bitcoin. So what we were seeing on our platform was a lot of new customers were coming in and just buying the cheaper versions, and we realized that that was probably not the right thing. We tried to solve that with education, but we weren't able to shift the behavior. We worked with the developers. We said, hey, perhaps you want to consider rebranding. But without going too much in the weeds, we concluded that the right thing for us to do was protect consumers, lose the revenue, but it's probably the better thing for us to do is to delist assets that are not playing a fair game.
For the marketers in the room and the CMOs in the room that maybe haven't, delved into the world of either crypto or Web3, and they're looking for a kind of point of entry, what would be your suggestion? You talked about an Afghan woman paying her staff in Bitcoin. You used the example from Venezuela as well. But for these people in the room in the US that are working with big brands, that are working with maybe older institutions that want to suggest and delve into the world of Web3 and crypto, what's their entry point? How do they start?
I personally think everyone here should, I hope I can leave everyone with, the intention of creating a wallet. It doesn't matter where you create it, as long as it's a decentralized wallet, it's a self-custody. There is a concept called self-custody or self-hosted. Basically, all that means is you're in full control of that wallet. Nobody can tamper with the assets you have in that wallet. Nobody owns it other than yourself. So I think that's the best entry into crypto, because once you have your wallet, it's almost like a Chase or Bank of America checking account, except in this account, you're able to not only hold financial assets, but you can also hold other digital assets like NFTs or what have you. So what happens with a wallet as a utility is that you're then, as marketers, able to go and plug into different communities. As a marketer myself, I'm so fascinated with the way DeFi, decentralized finance, was built, which is essentially, imagine a room of, this room, getting together and saying, hey, we're going to pool in $10 and eventually say we have $50,000 pool. That $50,000 get borrowed by people in the financial industry, and it generates yield. That yield then gets equally distributed among all of us, not a centralized bank, but equally among all of us. That's a concept of DeFi. When you as a marketer come in and learn about that and learn about decentralized participation and favorable incentives, for everyone, I am sure it will drive a lot of ideation around what you can do to bring your brands and your branded experiences into those environments. Because I really believe that is the future. Communities are going to be self-led and they're going to be self-governed. And crypto enables that. And I think if you start with a wallet, it'll be a great entryway into learning about these experiences. And be brave, go out there. I know it feels very jarring and complex, but it's really not. I think once you get started, it will quickly take you down the rabbit hole.
And finally, if we had to put on a crystal ball hat and look ahead to maybe Tribeca next year, it's June 15th, 2023. What does global finances look like, and what do the stories that we're telling at Tribeca look like in the ideal world for you?
I hope that by next year, we've done a fair job of doing 2 things. One, changing and correcting the narrative of crypto, helping everyone understand that there's more utility and goodness around crypto than things going to the moon, so to speak. The second thing is I'd like to see more diversity in our industry. So one of our companies, OKCoin, has a pledge to bring 50% females into the platform by 2025. I hope that we see some progress there based on the initiatives we've been launching over the last 12 months. In terms of storytelling, Sammy, I hope that we're standing here and sitting here and celebrating the opening, perhaps, or an upcoming screening of a film that was produced and created on the blockchain and lives in the metaverse. I think that's the ideal outcome I'm hoping that we can inspire creators to achieve here. We don't have to do it. We just want to be able to finance and enable it. And I'm really hoping that we can do that over the next 12 months.
Amazing. And if you're that filmmaker, maybe see Haider after and have a chat. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sammy. Thanks for having us.